Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Main character of this story is Sarah, a nurse from a small town in Ohio, along with thousands of healthcare workers like her, who gave up everything during the COVID-19 pandemic just to save us. Let me take you back to what it was like at that time. It was December 2019, right before Christmas. The streets were lined with festive lights, coffee shops were selling peppermint lattes, and everyone was busy wrapping gifts and preparing for family dinners, counting down to New Year's Eve. Sarah, 32 years old, was a registered nurse at Mercy General Hospital. She had a husband named Jack, a high school football coach, and a 7-year-old daughter named Lily, who was obsessed with Elsa from Frozen and eagerly hoping Santa would bring her a new toy. Sarah was the kind of nurse who remembered every patient's name, who would bring an extra blanket to lonely elderly patients, who would stay behind to hold a frightened child's hand when their parents couldn't be there. Her colleagues often joked that she was the heart of the emergency room, man. That wasn't an exaggeration. That Christmas, Sarah's family had a lot of plans. They were going to drive to Jack's parents' farm in Michigan, build snowmen with Lily, bake sugar cookies. Sarah's cookies were famous. She added a little cinnamon, which made them especially warm and comforting, and watch It's a Wonderful Life after dinner. Lily even made a card for Sarah herself that read, "Mom, you are my hero." At the time, she didn't know that in just a few weeks her mom would become a hero to hundreds, even thousands of strangers. By mid-January 2020, things began to feel off. The hospital where Sarah worked started receiving calls from hospitals in New York and California. They were all talking about a new virus, something they had never seen before. At first, there were only a few isolated cases, but by February, the emergency room began to overflow. Patients came in with high fevers and difficulty breathing, their eyes filled with a kind of fear Sarah had never seen before. The hospital called an emergency meeting. They told the staff that COVID-19 was spreading rapidly, and everyone needed to step up. Shifts would double, rest time would shrink, and every shift required full personal protective equipment: masks, protective suits, gloves, face shields. Nothing could be missing. "I still remember the first time I put on the full set of protective gear," Sarah told me when I spoke with her months later. "It was hot and heavy, and I could barely breathe. I looked at myself in the mirror and hardly recognized who I was. But when I walked into the ER and saw a 60-year-old man struggling to breathe, begging me to save him, in that moment, I forgot how uncomfortable I was. I forgot that I hadn't eaten in 6 hours. I only knew that I had to do everything I could to save him." That's the greatness of healthcare workers. They don't get to choose when a crisis arrives. Can't stay home with their families. Can't cancel their plans. Can't back away in fear. Because while the rest of us hide at home, afraid to go out, they walk straight into the storm, day after day, night after night. Weeks passed and things only got worse. The hospital was overflowing with patients. Beds had to be placed in the hallways. Sarah worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week without a break. She left home at 5 a.m. when Lily was still asleep. She came back at 9 p.m. when Lily was already in bed. Jack would leave a plate of food for her on the kitchen counter, but most nights, she was too exhausted to eat. She would take a quick shower, scrubbing her hands until they were red and sore, change into clean clothes, and collapse onto the couch, sleeping only a few hours before waking up to do it all over again. Lily began asking Jack, "Daddy, where's Mommy? When will she come home and read me bedtime stories?" Jack would hold her tightly and say, "Sweetheart, Mommy is helping sick people. She's a superhero, and superheroes have to work extra hard right now." But Lily didn't understand. She just wanted her mom. One evening, Sarah came home a little earlier than usual and found Lily sitting on the porch, hugging her Elsa doll, waiting for her. "Mommy," Lily screamed and ran toward her. But Sarah stepped back. She couldn't hug her daughter, couldn't even get close, because she had been exposed to COVID patients all day, and she was afraid of infecting her little girl. "I had to make her stop where she was," Sarah said, her voice choking with emotion. I knelt down and waved to her from across the yard. Said, "Sweetheart, Mommy loves you, but I can't hug you right now." "Not yet," she cried, and I cried, and Jack stood there, holding back tears. That was the hardest day of my life. I became a nurse to help others, but now I couldn't even hug my own child. I felt like I had failed her. But Sarah didn't give up. She kept going. Because for every tear she shed, there was a patient who smiled when she walked into the room. A man who said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." A woman who held her hand and said, "Because of you, I get to see my grandchildren again." These moments kept her going even when she was exhausted, even when she was afraid, even when she missed her family beyond words. Then in April, something unfortunate happened. Sarah started feeling unwell fever, coughing, difficulty breathing. She got tested for COVID and the result was positive. She broke down completely. It's not because she was afraid for herself, but because she was afraid she might have brought the virus home, might have infected Jack and Lily.
Oh.
She was admitted to the same hospital she worked in, alone in a room, calling Jack to tell him the news. I still remember that phone call, Jack told me. She was crying and said, "I'm sorry, I was so careful. I didn't want you and Lily to get sick." Told her it wasn't her fault. She went out there to save lives. It's the bravest thing anyone can do. I told her we would be okay. We'd wait for her to come home. For the next 2 weeks, Sarah was in isolation. She couldn't see her family, couldn't hug them, couldn't even be in the same room. The only way she could talk to Lily was through video calls. Lily would hold up her drawings and say, "Mommy, I drew us together. When you come home, can we bake cookies?" Sarah would nod, holding back tears, and say, "Yes, sweetheart. Mommy promises." During those 2 weeks, Sarah's colleagues took care of her. They brought her favorite snacks, chocolate chip cookies. She had no resistance to those. Left sticky notes on her door that said, "We miss you. You can do it. We're with you." Even though they were exhausted themselves, even though they were severely understaffed, they made sure she never felt alone. That's the bond between healthcare workers there, not just colleagues, their family. On Easter, Sarah received the news she had been waiting for. Her COVID test was negative, and she could go home. When the doctor told her, she cried, tears of joy, relief, and happiness. When she walked out of the hospital, she saw Jack and Lily standing in the parking lot, holding a sign that read, "Welcome home, Hero Mom." Lily waved her Elsa doll, and Jack held a bouquet of her favorite flowers and flowers, because they reminded her of happiness. But the story didn't end there. When Sarah got home, the neighbors stood outside their houses, clapping and cheering. They held signs that said, "Thank you, Nurse Sarah. Heroes wear scrubs. We appreciate you." One neighbor brought her a homemade apple pie, her second favorite treat. Another gave Lily a new frozen doll, and a little boy across the street handed her a drawing that said, "Thank you for saving everyone." Sarah told me in that moment, I realized I wasn't alone. All the long hours, all the tears, all the missed time with my family, it was all worth it, because I was part of something bigger than myself. I was helping others, and people cared about me. That's what being a nurse is. You don't do it for praise or money. You do it because you care, because you want to make a difference. Guys, Sarah's story is not unique. There are thousands upon thousands of healthcare workers just like her, nurses, doctors, caregivers, respiratory therapists, janitors, and so many more. During the worst of the pandemic, they gave up time with their families, their health, and even their lives just to protect us. They faced fear every day, pushed through exhaustion, and did the most extraordinary things without expecting anything in return. We often forget that healthcare workers are ordinary people too. They have families, worries, fears, and limits. They're not born heroes. They simply chose to step forward when it mattered most. During the pandemic, so many of them never made it home. So many collapsed from overwork. So many missed their children growing up, their families, and even important holidays. While we were having Christmas dinners and celebrating Easter, they were in hospitals, protecting strangers. Now that the pandemic has passed, we must never forget their sacrifices. We cannot let life returning to normal erase the memory of those who brought us hope in the darkest times. They deserve our respect, our gratitude, and for their stories to be told again and again. So let me ask you, during the pandemic, was there a healthcare worker who touched your life or your family's life? Was there a moment when you felt they were the greatest people in the world? Share your story in the comments so we can honor these heroes together. And please share this video with your family and friends, so more people remember their sacrifices and learn to appreciate those who protect us. Finally, to all healthcare workers, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on us when the world stood still. Thank you for your dedication that brought us safety. Thank you for being our strongest support. You are true heroes, and you will always be remembered. That's all for today's story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and leave your story in the comments. See you next time. Love you all.